What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Keeping Up with the Commanders. This episode is one I've been wanting to do for a pretty long time. I wanted to do it last year, and I finally ended up deciding to do it this year during the bye week. Washington is on a bye week. We're having NFL Sunday right now without a Washington game, so I thought it'd be a great idea to ask you guys for your guys' mock drafts. I put out this tweet earlier this week asking for people's mock drafts, and you guys delivered, and there were some pretty spicy ones, so we'll just get right into it. We'll start off with Walter Whitesell, a guy who has been a loyal follower for quite a while now, and this mock is definitely something. We start at number 4. Marvin Harrison Jr. right off the bat is definitely a controversial pick. Going wide receiver, Marvin Harrison going to be there at 4 most likely. I gotta imagine if he's going 4, then the 3rd overall pick was probably one of Joe All or Olu Fashanu. I'm going to go ahead and say Olu Fashanu just based on how the mock draft simulators have been working over the past few weeks. But yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr., I'm going to say in this case over Joe Alt is, again, a controversial pick. Do I like it? I mean, you're bringing in a guy who's a generational talent. He's one of the best wide receiver prospects we've seen in quite some time now. So, again, a 2-time Blitnikoff award winner. So, Marvin Harrison Jr., he's not a bad prospect, or he's not going to be like an overrated one, because this guy's going to be able to deliver day one, and I think that's what the plan is here with this mock draft, guys that can deliver day one. Barrett Carter at 40. Barrett Carter actually, I believe he went back to school for another year, so this mock draft was done quite a while ago, because Barrett Carter announced that he's going to go back to Clemson for his senior season, which it kind of really hits hard on the Washington Commanders and what they want to do next year, especially at that linebacker spot, because you got Jamin Davis there, and then you got Cody Barnes on a 1 year, his contract's expiring, David Mayo's contract's expiring, Khaleke Hudson's contract is expiring, so you got a lot of guys that aren't going to be on the roster in terms of the linebacker position. You've got some depth to fill if you're Washington, and drafting a linebacker in the 2nd round, I expect Jeremiah Trotter, the other linebacker at Clemson, to declare for the draft. He's going to be at the Senior Bowl next month, so I expect him to declare at some point if he hasn't already, which I don't think he has. But that's a name that I definitely want to have my eye on if you're Washington fans, especially in that 2nd round with one of those 2 earlier draft picks. Which this one at 40 in this case, there was a trade, pick 36. For 77, 81, and a 2025 Seattle 2nd round pick. So Washington in this case dropping 40 picks in this draft with their earlier 2nd round pick, giving it to Seattle. Seattle, don't know why they go in Bo Nix here, but here we are. it doesn't really matter. But Washington 77, 81, and a 2025 Seattle 2nd round pick. I love this trade. Getting a lot of value if you're Washington, especially because this team most likely will not be contending next year for the playoffs, for Super Bowl. So getting more draft picks for the future is something that I love in this one, especially in a class where really if you're Washington, you want to get as many young guys as possible. You want to rebuild this team. These veteran guys we've been seeing shipped off, Chase Young shipped off, Montez Sweat shipped off, Kendall Fuller's a free agent, Cam Curl's a free agent. You got guys like Jonathan Allen, which their future is in question in terms of being on the Washington Commanders for 2024. So getting 2025 draft picks is definitely a good steal. If I'm Seattle in this case, I don't really want to accept this trade. You move up a little bit, but 77, 81 in a 2nd rounder next year seems a pretty steep price for the 36 overall pick, which I guess is like a low 1st round pick, or back end 1st round pick. But still, I mean, this is a lot of good value for Washington. And if I'm Seattle, if I'm offered this, I'm not sure how I feel about it unless I really see a guy that I want to go up and get. In this case, for the simulator, they chose Bo Nix. But I think this is a great trade for Washington. I think Washington would win this trade. And again, Walter Whitesell, he's going off with these picks at 68. DJ James, boosting that secondary, the cornerback out of Auburn. I gotta go scout him. But we're getting some depth at corner. It looks like in this draft class. Looking at kind of what's ahead, this is really the only secondary piece in this mock. But I mean, this pick boosts that secondary. Like I mentioned, Kendall Fuller's a free agent, Cam Curl's a free agent. You got young guys like Emmanuel Forbes, who I doubt Forbes plays again for the rest of the season, if not maybe a week 17, week 18. But it really sounds like his knee injury was pretty serious. Doubt he plays again for the rest of the season. Quan Martin, we saw what happened last week when Quan Martin played against the Miami Dolphins. So he was put in some bad positions, and he got burnt by Tyreek Hill many times. So, but we definitely need some secondary help. DJ James in the second round, or is this third round? I'm guessing. Yeah, is it this like back front end of the third round with that third round pick, and the 77th pick, which I believe they got in the Seattle trade. Rook Ororo, defensive tackle out of Clemson. I mean, like, yeah. I mean, we need some defensive tackle help. I wouldn't, if going into the season, I didn't think we'd need some defensive tackle help. But if Washington does end up trading away Jonathan Allen, you got Deron Payne there on that massive contract. Fedarian Mathis, a former second-round pick, where has he been over this last year and a half? So I know he was out for his entire rookie season last year, but this year I haven't heard his name once this season. So defensive tackle, definitely a position of need. I wouldn't consider it a major position of need, as I would probably go with the offensive lineman, probably somewhere in these first four picks, which they didn't go with any. But again, offensive line position of need, pretty much is best player available for this draft for Washington. So yeah, we're getting some offensive tackle help. Offensive tackle out of Yale at 81, Jaheim Bell at 96. I mean, Jaheim Bell, I know he's going to the Senior Bowl as well. I think he could definitely be a guy to watch if you're Washington. Back end of the third round, early on day 3 maybe. But the tight end out of Florida State is pretty solid. So if Washington wants to boost that that tight end position with Logan Thomas again, I think he's a free agent after this season, I want to say. If not after this season, after next season. And again, Logan Thomas is in his 30s now. He's getting older. We haven't really seen any of Cole Turner in this new offense under Eric Bieniemy, which I thought we would because of how similar Cole Turner is to a guy like Travis Kelce in the passing game. We haven't seen John Bates become a great passer. I know he's a great blocker, but he doesn't really bring much in the passing game. Jaheim Bell is a bigger guy, and I think that'd probably be a solid pick at tight end. And then at pick 100, which is the compensatory pick that Washington got for Chase Young, Donovan Edwards, the running back out of Michigan, really like this pick. We've seen what Donovan Edwards can do, what he did against Ohio State in that 2022 game. I mean, we've seen the speed and the explosiveness that Donovan Edwards can bring to an offense. And at running back, we haven't seen explosiveness. Like Brian Robinson's biggest run this season is 20-something yards. So it's not explosive. There's no explosiveness in this backfield. Brian Robinson, he's more of a power back. Antonio Gibson, they've been running him down the middle for some reason. Like a guy that was great as a wide receiver at Memphis or in his college days has now been more used as a power back as well, and hasn't really brought that explosiveness to this offense that like Washington would have seen. Like the most explosive player in this backfield is a wide receiver, Curtis Samuel. He's the most explosive player in this backfield. And so I don't really like where this backfield stands. And I definitely think Washington should be looking at either taking Bucky Irving somewhere in the third round, or maybe a guy like Donovan Edwards later in the third round or earlier on day 4, maybe. But yeah, Bucky Irving, a guy out of Oregon, I really like him as a prospect. I think he's going to be a very explosive, very good running back in the NFL. I definitely think his draft stock could rise into being a day 2. He's already, but more of a round 2 pick. So if Washington doesn't want to use one of their kind of premium draft assets with those 2 early second rounders on a running back, and want to use one of their day 3 or round 3 or early day 3 picks on a running back, I think Donovan Edwards could definitely be a guy that Washington could choose from. Brandon Coleman, the guard out of TCU, don't know much about him, but again, similar to the offensive tackle out of Yale, we're kind of like building or trying to rebuild this offensive line. A wide receiver in the 6th round, and then Sam Hartman in the 7th round. So overall, I mean, this draft class, if I had to give it like an A through F grade, which is probably what I'm going to do for all these, I'm going to assume that instead of Barrett Carter, it's Jeremiah Trotter at 40. Because Jeremiah Trotter, again, is probably going to be available somewhere in that early 30s, early 40s range. So I'm going to assume it's Jeremiah Trotter because Trotter will most likely declare. But I'm going to give this a solid B. I'm gonna give it a B. Cause look, if you go Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4, I don't really think you need to pick up another wide receiver later on day 3. And then the Sam Hartman pick is whatever. I'm leaning towards a B plus, but here's the thing: Washington, they need to protect Sam Howell, and in this case, Sam Howell with this draft class, in this case, Sam Howell is going to be your quarterback for 2024, and you're giving him weapons, giving him Marvin Harrison Jr., giving him Donovan Edwards in that backfield, Jaheim Bell at tight end, but who's protecting him? I don't really like. I want to see some more early draft picks used on offensive linemen. Picking up a guy like Patrick Paul maybe in the early second round, or Troy Fashanu, the Washington tackle. So I want to see some more early draft picks used on offensive line than in this case, one being on day 2 and one being on day 3, because you're not going to get an elite offensive tackle in free agency. Like the Teron Armstead thing, when he hit free agency, was like the biggest offensive tackle to hit free agency in a long time. So, like probably since Brandon Scherf. So you're not going to get an offensive tackle or an elite offensive lineman in free agency, because that just doesn't happen. It's too valuable, and those positions are too thin in terms of their elite talent at the top, where if you have an elite offensive tackle, you're going to pay him, because the chance of you getting a better one in free agency or in the draft is so slim that you're going to pay him. You're going to give him a blank check. So all this mock draft, I'm going to give it like a B, like a high B plus, somewhere in that range. So Walter Whitesteel, good job on that one. Now Jake Talk Sports, another guy that I've known for quite a while, also going with Marvin Harrison Jr. with the 4th pick. So this is solid. Back-to-back drafts with Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4, which is pretty surprising. I think, yeah. So at 4, I'm gonna say again, Olu Fashanu probably went 3, and then Joe Alt probably went 5 in this case. So Marvin Harrison Jr. goes 4. But again, I'm so torn right now on who would you get: Olu Fashanu, Joe Alt, or Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4. Because 2 of those 3 are going to be available with that 4th pick. Maybe even all 3 if some team decides to trade up to draft a guy like Jayden Daniels, who recently won the Heisman with the 3rd overall pick. So Marvin Harrison Jr., I mean, we're going to see. We're going to see where this goes from there. So Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4. Troy Fashanu, the offensive. He plays tackle at Washington. He'd be more of a guard probably in the NFL. But Fashanu at 36, which is a solid pick. I think I had him selected in my mock draft, which we're going to get to at the very end. Actually, one of my mock draft that I did for TWSN. So we're going to get to that at the very end. But Fashanu at 36 is solid. JT Tuimoloau at 40. I would say Tuimoloau would probably fall to 40 at this stage, that's a solid pick as well. I like, so far, these first 3 picks, I really like. Byron Murphy at 68, the defensive tackle. I like that pick as well. Ben Sinnott, the tight end out of Kansas State. So in these first 5 picks, we're hitting on wide receiver, we're hitting on offensive line, we're hitting on edge rusher, defensive tackle, and tight end. Those are 5 positions of need for Washington. And then at pick number 100, Tommy Eichenberg, linebacker of Ohio State. I'm just going to go through the rest. Donovan Edwards at running back at 132. So Donovan Edwards falls a little bit. Tyler Davis at 164, who also falls a little bit. The defensive tackle out of Clemson. I'm just going to give this an A+. I really like this draft class. Okay, no. I'm not going to give it an A+. I'm going to give it an A. I don't think it's A+ material, because we're only getting one elite like offensive tackle, or one highly rated offensive tackle. I think if you got rid of Byron Murphy because you're selecting Tyler Davis later on in the 6th, if you got rid of Byron Murphy, put in another offensive lineman, I think I'd give this an A+. But overall, Jake Talk Sports, great job. Marvin Harrison Jr., you're hitting on all of the weaknesses for Washington. You're getting explosiveness at wide receiver, tight end, and running back with all 3 of those guys. You're hitting on the offensive line with Troy Fashanu. You're hitting on edge, JT Tuimoloau, here to replace another Ohio State guy in Chase Young. Byron Murphy, which I mean, Byron Murphy and Tyler Davis to kind of replace that defensive tackle. I'm going to assume in this case, Jonathan Allen gets traded because we don't really need that many defensive tackles. So that's why I'm going to give it an A. But Ben Sinna, I really like him out of Kansas State, the tight end. And then Donovan Edwards at 132. We saw the other mock draft have him at 100. So this would be a good draft class. I think that Donovan Edwards, that Donovan Edwards pick, he definitely have to fall a little bit to get him at 132, and then Tyler Davis at 164, he'd have to fall a little bit to get there. So this would be a very lucky draft class for Washington if some of these guys fell. Troy Fashanu at 36, I think he's going to rise in draft stock to be a late day one pick. So we'll have to wait and see. But overall, a solid A here. I'm going to, round of applause for that, because a solid A from Jake Talk Sports. Great job. I wish next one, AJ Underdog, one of the guys I've known on Twitter X for like probably the longest time. So here we go. I want to start off with 2. Okay, we got a trade first of all. Okay, I'm looking at this. This guy really played to my favorites. He knows me well. Olu Fashanu at 4 gets the offensive tackle out of Penn State. I'm guessing either Joe Alt, Marvin Harrison Jr. went number 3. Olu Fashanu at 4. Great pick. He's going to be great in the NFL. One of the best pass blockers in all of college football in the country, really. The offensive tackle at Penn State he's good. He is very good. Only 20 years old too. That guy, he has a bright future in the NFL. Chop Robinson. So you go back-to-back Penn State guys at 4. Looks like you trade back into the first round using one of the second round picks. And I'm guessing probably a pick from next year as well. So I'm going to go with like a second round pick next year. You're also giving up for it. I'm gonna say you're giving up another second round pick and maybe a next third round pick next year too. Oh no, okay, here it is. So you're giving up a second round pick. You're giving up your third round pick this year, and I'm gonna assume you give up a second round pick next year to move up to 19. So they go Chop Robinson, which again you're boosting the edge. Chop Robinson, one of the better pass rushers in this draft class. Loved watching him at Penn State. Had some injury issues this year, but beyond that, I'm still super excited to see him at the combine and throughout the entire draft process. So first 2 picks both go with Penn State guys. I know Josh Taylor would love that. But at 40, Denzel Burke, the cornerback out of Ohio State. In my first mock draft for TWSN, I did a few months ago, or maybe it was like a month and a half ago. I took Denzel Burke. I think he's definitely going to be in play here at the 40th overall pick. So we'll have to wait and see, but I think he definitely could be in play. Burke, I feel like, especially with this cornerback class, I feel this cornerback class could maybe fall off a little bit as the draft process goes on. We'll have to wait and see. But Burke here at 40, at the end of the day, could be a little bit of a reach. But overall, we need to boost this secondary, and I think Denzel Burke could do that. So he could definitely have a boost and definitely have the ceiling of being a starter on the Washington Commanders. At number 100, the compensatory pick from San Francisco, Jaheim Bell again. Talked about him in that past mock draft. Great tight end out of Florida State. 104, which is the Commanders' 4th round pick, I want to say. I want to say 4th round pick. Braylon Allen, the running back out of Wisconsin. Braylon Allen, he's I think he's also 22. I know he's young because I'm pretty sure he reclassed. I want to say he's either 19 or 20. He's one of the youngest players in this draft class. So I know he was his 2022 season. He was one of the best running backs in the country. Continued that up with another great season out Wisconsin. I really like him at 104. Smail Mondon, the linebacker out of Georgia at 139. Need to boost that linebacker, at least get some depth if you're not going to bring back David Mayo and you're not going to bring back Khaleke Hudson, because those guys were really only there because they knew the scheme. And now with a possible new head coach coming in, I doubt both of them come back. So Braylon Allen, Smail Mondon at 139, the linebacker out of Georgia. Isaiah Adams, the guard out of Illinois, or guard center out of Illinois at 181. Solid pick again, kind of boosts that interior of the offensive line. You got Olu Fashanu early on, and then Isaiah Adams kind of in the 6th round, maybe as a developmental guy or maybe someone for the depth. So again, two offensive linemen, which I think is kind of a must for Washington, is somehow getting 2 offensive linemen in this draft class. But then this last pick really sells me on this on this on this mock draft. Ricky Pearsall, one of my favorite players to watch in college ever. Really, he is such a good player. He can really do it. He really did it all for Florida. Now I know I'm a Florida fan, so I'm a little bit biased in this case, but really I think he shouldn't go in the 7th round. I think he's gonna sneak his way up into an early day 3 pick because the floor that Ricky Pearsall is gonna bring to a wide receiver, he can be the wide receiver 3, probably like a really good wide receiver 3 on a team almost immediately because the amount that he produced in this Florida offense that was very, very what's the word? It wasn't great, this Florida offense, especially the passing game. But Ricky Pearsall almost hit 1,000 yards this year for the Gators. I really love to see him on Washington, and if he does get to the 7th round, I'm sprinting up to the podium myself to draft him because he's going to be he's a high floor wide receiver. He's not going to ever be probably a dominant wide receiver 1. He was that wide receiver 1 for Washington for Florida this year, but I think he'd definitely be a solid wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 starter in the NFL. Which, if you can get that on day 7, that's wonderful. So, all right, now grading this draft out of A through F, I'm gonna give this one. I like this one too. But I'm gonna assume that we have to give up a 2nd round pick next year to trade up for Chop Robinson. Therefore, I'm going to give this. I'm kind of giving all of them some high grades. I'm gonna give this a B+. I like what's happening here. You have that 5 needs at the beginning: offensive tackle, edge, secondary, tight end, running back, and then you also get linebacker as well. So this draft class really does express the needs for Washington. But giving up that 2nd round pick next year, especially in a team that's kind of rebuilding, definitely I think would hurt. But drafting a guy like Chop Robinson for giving up that 2nd round pick, I think kind of makes up for it. So scratch that. I'm not giving it a B+. I'm giving this an A-. It's a solid draft class from AJ here. Great job. An A- from AJ. Now we got David. David, I think was this 2. He gave me 2. Yeah, he gave me 2. Okay. We'll start with this one. We're gonna go through this one kind of fast because I see he was doing a lot of wheeling and dealing here to get some picks. So it looks like trading down from 4 to 19, drafting Amarius Mims, the offensive tackle out of Georgia, and then Troy Fashanu at 36, the guard from Washington. So the first 2 picks, both going offensive line, solid. I like it. I like the trade down as well. Looks like you got a lot of day 2, some day 3 picks from it. A lot of day 2 picks. It looks like actually from it. So at 19, there's that, and then Fashanu at 36. Princely Umanmielen is coming back to school for another year, so I'm just going to put some other edge rusher there. But JT Tuimoloau at 41 is solid. I don't think he's falling to 41. I really like that pick, though. Cooper Beebe at 53. I like that pick. So Amarius Mims, Troy Fashanu, and Cooper Beebe. If you get all 3 of those, that's a solid draft. That's a solid draft right there. I would love to get all 3 of those guys. That's going to rebuild. That's 3 possible starters from week 1 right there between the 3. So I really like that. Jalen Ford, linebacker of Texas at 68. Kalen Carson, who's a guy that I'm looking forward to scouting out of Wake Forest, the cornerback at 75. Malachi Corley, the Western Kentucky wide receiver. I think he entered the transfer portal, so he won't be I think he entered the transfer portal, so he won't be going to the draft. Braylon Allen at 81, Ben Sinon at 100, Danny Stutzman at 132. Okay, and then corner and safety. So there's a lot happening here. The offensive line, I really like that. Drafting 3 offensive line in the first 2 rounds, trading back to draft Amarius Mims, and then getting Cooper Beebe later on in the 2nd round because of it. I like that. JT Tuimoloau at 41. Okay. I'm gonna assume this is a different edge rusher. I'm just gonna act as Princely Umanmielen, just a different edge rusher because Umanmielen is going to he entered the transfer portal, but I don't really like going for double edge or that early on. I'd like to see maybe go for a wide receiver such as Troy Franklin, maybe with that 40th pick instead. But yeah, I don't really see the need for double edge. I know Washington traded away both of their guys, Chase Young and Montez Sweat, and now you're stuck with KJ Henry, Andre Jones, and James Smith Williams, who's done for the year, Casey Toohill. Like, I know the depth isn't there, but there's going to be guys in free agency. There's some elite edges in free agency, like Josh Allen, that are going to be there for Washington. So if Washington wants to make a move on one of them, and you can save one of these picks, because I don't really like going double edge this early. I know the class is like it's a solid edge class, but I don't really like this. I don't really like it. But still, though, the 3 offensive linemen in the first 2 rounds is wonderful. Linebacker as well. Corner, a lot of rebuilding the secondary late on day 3, and then Kalen Carson as well. So a lot of that. There's a lot of picks. There's a lot of picks here. You get Braylon Allen, Benson. We've seen some of these names already. Malachi Corley, I'm going to assume this is just another different wide receiver because he's, I'm pretty sure, in the transfer portal. But yeah, overall, this one, I'm going to give this one a. I'm going to give it a B minus. I'm going to give it a B minus. It's the lowest grade one so far. I don't really know how I feel about all this trading and stuff. I know you get more picks if you're Washington, which you want more young players, but at what cost of talent? Like, at what? I'd rather have. I know I like the 3 offensive linemen, but I'd rather have a guy like Olu Fashanu, and then if you want to trade back into the second, use your compensatory 3rd round pick and maybe a 3rd round next year to trade back into the second, because I don't really. I want a guy like Olu Fashanu or Joe Alt. One of those 2 guys, I know I can trust both of them week 1 to be their starter, be right there immediately. So Amarius Mims, he's good and all, but I would rather have one of the elite offensive tackles, and then kind of towards the end, then some secondary help. Like, I doubt either Tavion Nicholson or Kenny Logan in this case. I doubt either of them would make the final roster. So those would kind of be waste of picks. That both of them would go in the practice squad. Yeah, B minus on this one. I'm not entirely in love with it, but it's solid. If this happens, then I would know that the new GM is very aggressive. I know that because he was wheeling and dealing a lot. So first one, a B minus. Second one, okay, now this second one is really spicy. Trading back once more. So I kind of see that as a theme here. Trading back. Jayden Daniels at quarterback, the Heisman winner at number 20. So I haven't watched Jayden Daniels yet. I've watched pretty much every single other top quarterback prospect besides Jayden Daniels. So he's next on my list. I'm watching JJ McCarthy right now, and then it will be him. But Amarius Mims at 25. So it looks like you trade back, but then you also trade. Okay, so you trade back from 4, and then you get 25 somehow with it. I don't know if this is the same team, and you get 20 and 25 for 4. Not really sure, but yeah, Jayden Daniels, Marius Mims, Troy Fashanu, JT Tuimoloau, Patrick Paul. Patrick Paul is not falling to 68. I'd love it to see if that happens, but he's not falling to 68. Braylon Allen at 100, Deontay Lawson, who else? Johnny Dixon, Will Shepard, yeah, Kenny Logan, Taj Washington. Yeah, this is solid. Okay, so in this case, Sam Howell wouldn't be the starter because you got Jayden Daniels. I think Jayden Daniels goes higher than 20. I think he's going to be in the top 10 when it's all said and done. I think I'm not sure how I feel about him as a prospect yet. Again, he won the Heisman, so he's a good quarterback. It's not like he's bad or anything, but he's going to go in the top 10, a quarterback where we saw this last year with Anthony Richardson. You have the ceiling of being a franchise quarterback in the NFL and being the guy for a franchise, being the face of a franchise. You're going to go high in the first round, especially if you're a quarterback. So I think Jayden Daniels goes in the top 15, at least in the top 15, probably the top 10. I wouldn't even be surprised if he goes in the top 5 or that someone trades up to the 3rd spot for him. So Jayden Daniels at 20. JT Tuimoloau. I love the Patrick Paul pick. He's an older guy, but still, I'm going to see him at the Senior Bowl, so that'll be fun. Braylon Allen at 100. Will Shepherd, I'm pretty sure he declared. I want to say he had to declare. I saw something with him. I think he declared, but might have gone to the transfer portal. And then the last things. Yeah, I would give this. I like these first 6 picks, but beyond that, it kind of fell off. I'm gonna give this like. Well, I gave this one a B minus. You kind of getting the same guys, but you're also getting Jayden Daniels as well. I'm gonna give this a B. I don't really know how I love about the Jayden Daniels pick. I think Sam Howell. I believe in him for 2024. I'm a Sam Howell believer right now, so I don't really love the Jayden Daniels pick. But again, you're getting a lot of the same guys: Amarius Mims, Troy Fashanu, JT Tuimoloau. Same with here. So like at the same time, like you're getting the same guys plus Jayden Daniels. So I'm gonna give this a B. I'm just not in love with this one. But yeah, all right, decent ED. First of all, your battery is low, just to let you know. But Olu Fashanu at 4, Troy Fashanu at 36, Denzel Burke was starting off with a bang, Chris Braswell at 68, Cedric Gray, Malachi Corley is entering the transfer portal, Jermaine Burton also entered the No, he didn't enter the transfer portal. I think he's okay. 139. Audric Estime pick at 181. I love that. Love Audric Estime. I think he's going to go pretty highly. Early day 3 is what I'm thinking. Maybe even sneak into day 2. Shamar Turner. So we go 2 back-to-back offensive tackles. I love that. Get the Denzel Burke pick to boost the secondary. Edge, linebacker, wide receiver. We go double wide receiver, running back, defensive line. I think this is a solid draft class. I'm gonna give this. I know I graded the other one so highly at the beginning. I'm gonna give this like a B plus. I think it's solid. Olu Fashanu, Troy Fashanu, that kind of like 1-2 to begin the draft class is what I'm seeing a lot of Washington fans do, which I love. Getting both of your edges, your left tackle and your right tackle done right off the bat. I'd love to see that. So yeah, and I'd assume Troy Fashanu moves over the right tackle or moves to left guard in this case. But yeah, Denzel Burke to boost the secondary is a popular pick at 40. Looks like Chris Braswell is a name I haven't really heard that much in Washington mock drafts. So that's a very interesting pick. Cedric Gray out of North Carolina. Malachi Corley is returning to school, but I'm just going to assume it's another wide receiver. Jermaine Burton, Audric Estime, Shamar Turner. Solid draft, giving it a B+. But yeah, we've got a lot to get through, so that's why I'm kind of hurrying this one up. Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4. Jordan Morgan, name I haven't heard of yet in any of these. Great pick at 50. Jatavion Sanders, another name. Graham Barton, 56 and 68. Beautiful for both of those picks. Well done. Adisa Isaac, the edge rusher of Penn State at 93. Jackson Powers Johnson, J-Pow NFL, the center out of Oregon at 96. Blake Corum at 100. And you're getting a 2024 Colts second round pick too. Don't know how. Wait, yeah, I don't know how. But wait. Yeah, 2024 second round pick. Is that shouldn't it be 2025? I think wait, no, because that's a Jatavion Sanders pick probably. Okay, so Marvin Harrison Jr. on 40. We've talked about this before already. Jordan Morgan, a tackle that I'm really interested to see at the Senior Bowl at 50. So it looks like you trade back a little bit from your 36, 37, 40, somewhere around there, down to 50 and 56. You pick up another third rounder, and yeah, you pick up another third rounder in replace of that. You get Jatavion Sanders, Graham Barton at 68. Offensive tackle that I think could go as early as late day 1. You pick up another center, the center of the year, actually, the best center in college football, and Jackson Powers at 96. Blake Corum, the running back out of Michigan, the all-time Big Ten leading rusher, I want to say. I want to say he's the all-time Big Ten leading rusher. I'm kind of confident on that at 100, and then some more depth at linebacker and at wide receiver later on. So solid. I'm gonna give this one. I like this one. I like this one a lot. I'm gonna give it an A-. I like the offensive tackle. You're getting a sneaky good player in Jackson Powers Johnson. You're getting Blake Corum with your compensatory pick Jordan Morgan and Graham Barton to protect the left tackle and the right tackle, while at the same time still getting Marvin Harrison Jr. and a really solid tight end prospect in Jatavion Sanders. So I like this one a lot. I'm gonna give it an A-. Solid job, Alvin. Solid job. So all right, Jacob now. Looks like this is a little three round mock. Olu Fashanu, JT Tuimoloau, Kamari Lassiter, Luke I think it's Lakey, and Marshawn Lloyd. So no trades, nothing crazy here. All you guys were going crazy with the trades early on, but Olu Fashanu, solid pick at 5. It's 4 or 5, whatever. If he falls to 5 and we end up getting the 5th pick, I definitely draft him. JT Tuimoloau, Kamari Lassiter. That's a guy that I haven't heard a lot either in Commanders mocks, but again, he's kind of one of those corners. Him, Denzel Burke in that early second round is a guy that Washington fans have been choosing a lot. Marshawn Lloyd in the third, and the Iowa. You can never go wrong with the Iowa tight ends. They all seem to do good, so you can never go wrong with the Iowa tight end in the third round. Marshawn Lloyd, haven't heard much about him. I need to do some research on him in the third. But yeah, solid mock. There's still some more, yeah. All right. So the picks here on the right: Joe Alt, Michael Penix in the second round, Tommy Eichenberg, and then Zach Zinter in the third, Al Blades in the 6th. This is a solid draft class. I'm gonna go with. I don't really like the Michael Penix pick in the second round. I don't like. Who would you rather have, Sam Howell or Michael Penix? I'd rather have Sam Howell. And choose maybe a corner or an edge rusher or another offensive lineman with that second round pick instead. I don't think I would go with Michael Penix there. Yeah. So I don't know what's happening on this left side. Dallas Turner going number 1 overall, but yeah, I'd give this probably. I'm not really in love with this one at all. I'd probably give this one like a C. I don't really like this one at all. So I graded your guys' stuff too highly at the beginning. Yeah, I graded your stuff way too highly. But yeah, thank you guys for everyone who submitted mock draft to go over. Those were really fun to look over. Now I actually have a mock draft for everyone, so let's get into that. Okay, here's my most recent mock draft. It's on TWSN if you guys want to go and check it out. At first, with the 4th pick, I went Brock Bowers, which, again, I was surprised no one went Brock Bowers with the 4th overall pick. Elite tight end prospect, one of the best tight end prospects we've seen in quite some time. And basically, you're giving Sam Howell a great weapon. If Eric Bieniemy ends up staying in Washington for 2024, which the chances of it are pretty low, but if he ends up staying in Washington for 2024, bringing in a guy like Brock Bowers is absolutely perfect for his scheme. Now let's move on. JT Tuimoloau at 36, Troy Fashanu at 37. Two guys that are great edge rusher and offensive tackle. Both of them are solid. Kingsley Sumatea, another offensive tackle in the 3rd round. I really like him as well. Audric Estime in the 3rd round as well. I didn't know trades for this one, so getting these guys, I went through the PFF mock simulator or whatever, and I got all these guys. Zach Zinter in the 4th round. Max Melton is a cornerback that I want Washington fans to keep an eye on in the 5th. Ben Bywalter in the 6th, and then Xavier Restrepo, a wide receiver that I also want Washington fans to keep an eye on in the 7th round out of Miami. I really like him a lot. So you guys can check out this mock at TWSN. I'll have it in the bio if you guys want to check it out. But yeah, I'm making a lot of content over there, writing some stuff for them if you guys want to read stuff from them that I've done. But yeah, that'll be it for this week's episode of Keeping Up with the Commanders. Something a little bit different for everyone for this week, because I know it's the bye week. So next week, Los Angeles against the Rams. That'll be an interesting one. Will Washington win? It'll hurt their draft stock. But yeah, at this point in the season, I kind of want them to lose. So that'll be it for this week's episode of Keeping Up with the Commanders. See you guys in the next one. Peace.